Okay, it's WWE Extreme Rules 2018. Watched it last night. Sorry this is so late, I kind of overslept. Um, First match is the kickoff show. First, the kickoff show matches. We actually had two this time. It's Andrade Cien Almas versus Sin Cara. I actually missed most of this match. I kind of misjudged when the kickoff show started. I thought it started at 6 and then they kicked it back to 5 even though it was still only an hour long. And they put two kickoff show matches on there, so I was a little confused. What I saw, like, Sin Cara hit a big enziguri with Almas on the top rope. They hit a jumping head scissors off of the apron. And but then Almas came back, he hit his double knee smash, and then he followed that with the hammerlock DDT for the 3 count. Looked fine. At least Sin Cara managed to get in some offense. He wasn't completely flattened like he's been. I will also say I enjoy Sin Cara's new mask. Glad they got him out of the Mystico stuff. It didn't make sense since it's not Mystico anymore. Okay, our next match is Sanity versus New Day in a tables and pancake match. Basically, it's just made a 6-man table match where only one of the members of a team had to go through a table. Anyway, there's one point where Eric Young inadvertently clotheslined Alexander Wolf. Big E went through his spear through the ropes, but Sanity managed to block it. Kofi and Xavier hit dueling planches onto Young and Wolf. Big E and Xavier hit a Uranaki backbreaker on, I think it was Killian Dane. No, it wasn't Killian Dane, it was Alexander Wolf. They did a Tower of Doom double stomp. Young and Wolf were on the top. Kofi was on the top turnbuckle. Young and Wolf were trying to double suplex him. Killian Dane came at the bottom. Big E, I think, came at the bottom as well. And that's where that whole came to be. And Dane hit a one-winged angel on Woods with Big E beneath them. And then eventually Eric Young and Alexander Wolf hit Kofi with the decapitator through the table to get the win. This match should have been better than it was. I think because it got kicked, maybe you should have put a gimmick match on the kickoff show, especially in a form of a table match. It seemed like this suffered from, because again, it was on the kickoff show. It's not meant to be like this lengthy, drawn-out, supersized affair. It's meant to be kind of quick-paced. And unfortunately, I think the table gimmick didn't really apply to that. If this had been on the show proper, maybe it would have been, like I said, longer. Maybe they would have made it, put all three opponents through a table instead of just one. I think it would have worked a lot better. Okay, moving on to the show proper, we have the Raw Tag Team Championship match. The Leaders of Worlds, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, versus the B Team of Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. Hardy and Dallas opened things off. They wrestled a little bit, and then Hardy tagged in Bray Wyatt, and we finally got the Rotunda brothers staring each other down in the ring. They circled each other a couple of times, and Bo immediately tagged in Curtis Axel. Hardy hit an elbow drop off the second rope onto Axel. Hardy came back and a side effect onto Axel. Axel came back and tagged in Dallas. Eventually, we did get Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas squaring off at each other. Wyatt went for Sister Abigail on Bo Dallas, but Axel broke that up. And then Hardy and Wyatt went for the Sisters of Fate on Curtis Axel, and Bo Dallas distracted them long enough for Axel to hit. Axel broke up the pin. I'm sorry. and that enabled Bo Dallas to hit a slingshot neck breaker on Matt Hardy for the 3 count and the victory. Your new Raw Tag Team Champions are the B Team. As they celebrated, Curtis Axel compared winning the championship to the time Stretch Armstrong landed on the moon. And Dallas then said B Team now stood for the best. It's finally nice to see something happening in the Raw Tag Division. I mean, you had the Bar as Tag Team Champions going into WrestleMania, then Strowman and Nicholas won the won it at Mania to forfeit it the next night on Raw. We had the Eliminator or tournament, which settled things with the Greatest Royal Rumble, and then we didn't have anything for 2 months after that. I know there are guys who are banged up. I know they want to. I know they want to start pushing the Authors of Pain really soon. I don't know what they're doing with Ziggler and McIntyre. If they're officially a tag team or not, especially with Ziggler holding the IC belt. But again, it's finally nice to see some sort of action taking place. In between that, we had Kurt Angle come on screen, and he basically said Brock Lesnar has been holding things up. There was supposed to be a multi-man match to crown a new #1 contender. That didn't exactly. I had to cancel that because Lesnar refused to go to SummerSlam. We've re-entered negotiations to try to get him to SummerSlam, but again, Lesnar is holding things up, or Paul Heyman is holding things up for Lesnar, and basically Angle's had enough. He says, "Look, Brock Lesnar will show up on Raw tomorrow night, or he can either agree to terms, or I will strip him of the belt because this needs to end." And don't know. Hopefully, this does. I don't want them to necessarily strip the belt off of Lesnar, but if they did, I'd be okay with that because, like, I agree, this needs to end. It's really burnt out now. It's not so much he's held the belt for the year; it's that he's held the belt for a year and he hasn't defended it, properly again in over 3 or 4 months now. I mean, the last time he defended it was the cage match. It just, again, let's start doing some different things in here. Please. After that, we had Finn Balor versus Constable Baron Corbin. Corbin threw Balor in the corner and landed a kind of cheap shot back elbow onto him. Corbin avoided being tossed in the ring post and hit a big lariat on Balor. Balor went for a springboard move, but Corbin countered it with a big right cross. Corbin hit his chokeslam backbreaker for a 2. Balor managed to rally back, hit a sling blade, and Corbin countered Balor's attempted corner drop kick with a deep 6. Corbin went for the end of days, but Balor countered that into a small package for the 3 count and the victory. It was an okay match. I mean, you could start to smell 50-50 booking on this. Don't be surprised if either tonight or the next week on Raw, Corbin gets his victory back and they carry this into SummerSlam. That being said, Corbin actually worked the match pretty well. I do seem to like this new Constable Enforcer gimmick he has. I definitely like that he cut his hair. I like it. I like that he's competing kind of in the suit now with the waistcoat and everything. It actually seems to fit him really well. Okay, before the next match, we had another backstage bit, which was the Bludgeon Brothers beat up Team Hell No backstage and injured Kane in the process. That leads us into the next match, which is the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Carmella versus Asuka with James Ellsworth suspended in a shark cage. Funny thing, given recent events, Carmella, the former Laker girl, came out in a gold and purple ensemble. Asuka came and landed several kicks right off the bat. It was basically James Ellsworth's antics kind of saved this match because it was pretty boring otherwise. Right off the bat, Ellsworth managed to produce a chain and tried to drop it down to Carmella, but Asuka stamped on it and held it down. She gave it to the ref, and Asuka gave the chain to the ref, and then Ellsworth dropped a spray bottle down to Carmella, but again, the ref Asuka kicked it away. Ellsworth then pulled out a lockpick and started picking the lock to the cage. got the door open, and he started trying to exit, but he got his he had a little leg tassel that got caught in the cage, and he was suspended by his leg upside down, and Asuka started to go to town to him on the outside, but that enabled Carmella to, as this was happening, the cage had to be lowered because they wanted to get Ellsworth back in the cage. The WWE officials are trying to figure out how to free him. Asuka basically, takes out a couple of the officials, starts wailing on Ellsworth again. It's at this point that Carmella grabbed Asuka, slammed her head off the cage, covered her for the 3 count and the victory. Like I said, it was Ellsworth's antics that made this entertaining. Unfortunately, the match itself was just completely forgettable. Anyway, after that we had the United States Championship match. Jeff Hardy versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Not much to say here, as just after the intro, while the ref is handing the belt to the timekeeper, Nakamura low blows Hardy. After that, after the bell rings, Nakamura hits the Kinshasa after the 3 count and the victory. Not really surprised here. If you've heard the reports, Hardy has a pinched nerve in his shoulder that has been dogging him. So you kind of felt that they weren't going to do too much in this match anyway. However, what happened next was rather interesting, as Randy Orton came out, got in the ring, stared down Nakamura, and then turned around and he stomped on Hardy. Again, he didn't do an RKO or anything because, again, you probably don't want to hurt Hardy too much more than he already is. So he just stomped on Jeff Hardy a couple of times and then left. So again, I don't know if this is building towards a triple threat. I mean, I don't think Orton ever got his proper rematch. Maybe he did. He faced, no, that was Jinder Mahal at the Greatest Royal Rumble, my mistake. Like I said, Orton never really got his proper rematch, so for the United States Championship, so I wouldn't be surprised if it leads to a triple threat at SummerSlam. Okay, our next match is the steel cage match between Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens. Owens came down to the ring very, very slowly as he during the intros. Right off the bat, Owens tried to climb the cage and escape, but Strowman pulled him down. Strowman splashed Owens against the cage. Strowman tried to splash Owens against the cage, but Owens dodged it. He had a super kick, and then he had his cannonball and a frog splash. Then Strowman got his hands on Owens and just threw him around the cage a lot. Owens came back and managed to hit a stunner. Owens tried to go out the door, but Strowman got up and slammed it on Owens' head. Owens then pulled out a couple of handcuffs and managed to get Strowman cuffed to the ropes. Owens got a couple licks, unfortunately, and because of that, he then ran to the other side of the ring and tried to grab the cage, but that gave Strowman enough time to break the cuffs and run to the other side of the cage. Both men fought on top of the cage, and then Strowman tossed Owens off the cage and through the announcer's table because they're in Pittsburgh, and we just passed the 20th anniversary of Mick Foley getting tossed off the Hell in a Cell, so we needed to reenact that, and Owens did technically win the match. He won by getting killed. Strowman basically stood on top of the cage and then left, and then the stretcher came out and got Owens out of there. I don't know what they're doing with this. Maybe they're just trying to get Owens some time off, because I know he's been banged up a little bit too. So, yeah, other than that, like I said, again, seeing how this all shakes out, or even if Strowman's going to cash in his Money in the Bank soon. Don't know. Okay, our next match is the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, the Bludgeon Brothers versus Team Hell No. Or, to be more precise, the Bludgeons versus Daniel Bryan, because he's the only one who came out. The bell rang anyway, they had the match. Basically, the Bludgeons beat up on Daniel Bryan. I mean, he did get a couple of moves. He fought out of a powerbomb and a couple of knee strikes. But after that, Eric Rowan actually slammed Luke Harper onto Daniel Bryan. Harper inadvertently kicked Rowan no, it inadvertently hit Rowan with a suicide dive. But then King came out in the walking boot. He got tagged in. He had a choke slam on both bludgeons. Tagged back in Brian, but unfortunately Kane was just too banged up, and the bludgeons hit Brian with the Doomsday Device power bomb for the 3 count and the victory. Yeah, don't know where they're necessarily going with this. And everyone's still waiting for them to pull the trigger on Miz and Brian, but if it was possible, I would say I'd rather wait for WrestleMania on that, because that seems more like a WrestleMania match. Don't know exactly what, like I said, kind of had the feeling like they would either, it's one of those, I know this sounds strange, but either Team Hell No was going to win or they weren't. And I guess this makes a way to have the Bludgeons continue to look strong and actually be more heelish, because the Bludgeons really don't inspire much emotion in anyone. I mean, they have a nice look, but that's about it. Maybe now, again, with them acting in a more heelish way, they can actually get the crowd to react to them in some way. Like I said, okay, our next match is Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley. It wasn't the main event. Everyone was saying it was going to be the main event. It's not, so we can at least take some comfort in that. Unfortunately, this match I actually thought could have been great, but the problem is it was way too slowly paced. There was some chain wrestling opening up. Lashley had a couple of suplexes and a waistlock takedown. Reigns hit his drive-by drop kick and then locked on a sleeper. At this point, the crowd began chanting for both Beach Balls and Rusev Day, which does not help. Reigns whipped Lashley towards the ring steps, but Lashley actually jumped up onto them, and then Reigns immediately ran up and shoved Lashley off and then tossed him into the other ring steps. Lashley came back in a power slam for a 2 count. Lashley hit a double axe handle off the top rope. I think that's the first I've ever seen him hit a top rope move of any kind. Reigns came back and hit basically was a Death Valley driver over the top rope, and Lashley just crashed outside the ring. He didn't land properly at all. He landed right on his hip. Oh, jeez, it hurt. Lashley countered a Superman punch with a spine buster, and then his big delayed vertical suplex only got a 2 count. Reigns countered a spear with a Superman punch and got a 2 count. They got to the outside of the ring. Reigns went for a big spear, but Lashley caught him and bellied Reigns over the German announce table. Reigns came back, hit another Superman punch, and then went for a spear, but Lashley played possum and hit a spear of his own for the 3 count and the victory. Again, I hope this means that we're going to get at least Lashley versus Lesnar at SummerSlam. I hope it's not a multi-man match. No multi-man matches, please. Just have it be one-on-one. Ken Reigns doesn't need to be going for the championship at this time. Whatever momentum he's had it completely died at this point. I mean, he didn't have much momentum to begin with, obviously, and so hopefully this means maybe we could build to something a little more interesting. At this point, they began to focus on Ronda Rousey in the front row of the crowd with her ticket, and she was actually there the whole time. So this wasn't so much a setup, because you could see her in the crowd a few times already, and obviously they had shown her during the kickoff show taking her seat. But all of that makes sense, because our next match is the Raw Women's Championship match. Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax. This is an Extreme Rules match. Alexa came out with Mickie James. Nia Jax came out with Natalya. And Bliss was staring down Ronda Rousey out in the crowd the whole time. Mickie James tried to, right off the bat, like Mickie James was trying to hand Alexa Bliss a kendo stick. You saw it kind of like pop into the frame of the camera a couple of times, but Nia fought her off. They got to the outside of the ring where they got the kendo stick, but immediately Nia grabbed it and broke it. Some trash cans got thrown in the ring, some chairs got thrown in the ring, trash can lids got thrown in the ring. Next, Nia flipped Alexa onto a trash can. Nia did a really great gorilla press slam where she dropped Alexa onto the trash can. Bliss set up a chair in the corner. Looked like she was going to get thrown into it, but then Nia charged Alexa. Alexa dodged it, and Nia hit the chair instead. At this point, Natalya and Mickey began fighting on the outside. Ronda Rousey came out of the crowd and attacked Mickie James for attacking Natalya. This brought Alexa Bliss out. Ronda went after Alexa. Mickey hit Rousey with a kendo stick. As this is happening, they then got in the ring. Both Alexa and Mickey got in the ring and hit Nia Jax with chairs. Alexa then hit a DDT on the chair for the 3 count and the victory. The match was alright. I think they worked everything in the way they needed to. A little disappointed again with the results. Like, Alexa Bliss as champion was great, but it's starting to really wear thin. Like, I wasn't exactly as pleased to have her win the Money in the Bank. Like, I would have really enjoyed seeing it go on to someone else. I'm glad they're still not quite pulling the trigger on Rousey. Like, I gotta wonder if they're going to, what they're going to do for SummerSlam, if this means another suspension, or, you know, are they going to have Bliss Rousey at SummerSlam or not? Hopefully not another title shot. Like, again, I'd like to see Ronda Rousey get some more matches before getting a title shot. It just, you know, she's had one good match that was a tag match, and that was it. And yeah, I know she's done some house show matches, but I mean on television. Okay, our next match is the WWE Championship match, AJ Styles versus Rusev. Right off the bat, AJ went kind of strike heavy. He landed some kicks onto Rusev's leg, damaged Rusev's knee. Rusev came back and a big body drop on the Styles. Rusev locked on a bear hug. Styles fought his way out. He fought out of a suplex and again kicked Rusev over a turnbuckle. Styles hit a flying forearm to the outside of the ring. Styles came back and hit a death drop DDT. He went for a Styles clash. Rusev blocked it. Styles tried to roll through for a calf crusher. Rusev blocked that. Styles countered a suicide dive with a jumping forearm. Styles fought out of a body slam, locked on the calf crusher, but Aiden English actually pushed the rope into Rusev's hand. Rusev hit a Machka kick for a 2 count. Rusev tried to lock on the Accolade, but his leg was too injured. As this was happening, Aiden English got up and untied the top turnbuckle in the ring. But Rusev actually wound up getting sent into it. And Styles came back and hit phenomenal forearm for the 3 count and the victory. This was actually a pretty good match. At least Rusev looked like he could hold his own. Excuse me. Hopefully they do try to keep Rusev in the upper mid card for the time being. I'd like to see him get in some more semi-main feuds. I'd personally like to see him face, like, say, Daniel Bryan. I think there could be a good feud in that. Not surprised he didn't win the belt. Don't know. As the prevailing rumor is still we're going to get Styles and Joe at SummerSlam, but maybe they'll hold off on that. We'll get another Rusev Styles match. I don't know. Okay, and that leads us to our main event, the 30-minute Iron Man match for the Intercontinental Championship between Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. The announcers, I thought this was going to play it a little bit more than it would, but the announcers did point out that DQs and countouts do count as falls. So if, say, Ziggler got DQ'd and that was a deciding fall, it would go to Rollins' favor and he would actually win the championship. But right off the bat, Rollins went for quick falls right away, a lot of roll-ups, a lot of pins, body slams, pins. Eventually Rollins hit his buckle bomb and hit a roll-up for 1 count, or for 3 count, and it was 1-0 Rollins at that point. Ziggler hit a big drop kick to Rollins' surgically repaired knee, but Rollins immediately came back and hit a big curb stomp for a 3 count, and the victory. Rollins is now up 2-0. At this point, Drew McIntyre interfered, got a DQ as a result, so Rollins is now up 3-0. But then in the schmaz, McIntyre hit a Claymore kick on Rollins, and Ziggler covered for the 3 count. It's now 3-1 Rollins over Ziggler. At that point, Ziggler hit a super kick and got a 3 count. And then, so it's 3-2 Rollins now. And then Ziggler tied things up by tossing Rollins into the ring post and hitting the zigzag for a 3 count. 3-3 at this point, obviously. Ziggler countered a suicide drive and then used the ropes for a leverage pin to make it 4-3. Then there weren't a lot of falls for a while at this point. The funny thing was they actually had the clock up on the Tron, and the crowd was counting down as if it was the Royal Rumble. So yeah, so it's like with it being 30 minutes, and you get down to like 25 minutes. It'd be 25 minutes and 10 seconds. They go 10, 9, 8, 7, and then that apparently cheesed them off, so they took it off, and everyone got upset, and they kept trying to count along, but they were way off. Like they were 10 to 15 seconds off most of the time. And on top of that, about 10 minutes after that, they had to put it back on because Rollins and Ziggler noticing the clock needed to be a big part for the end of the match. So that took a weird turn. But Rollins hit his Revolution knee, superplex Falcon Arrow. Rollins rolled Ziggler up after a catapult into the turnbuckle for a 3 count. And that evened things at 4. That was about 3 minutes left at this point. Rollins put Ziggler in a sharpshooter and then a crossface. There was 90 seconds left. Ziggler hit the Famouser with 30 seconds left. Rollins came back and hit the curb stomp with about 10 seconds left. He couldn't roll over to get the pin in time, and the clock expired, which meant this was a draw. However, as Ziggler celebrated and started to make his way up to the ring, Kurt Angle came out and said, "Nope, people here deserve a victory. We're going to sudden death. Restart the match, ring the bell." Just as the bell rang, Drew McIntyre returned to the ring. He had been expelled earlier. He got up and distracted Rollins long enough for Ziggler to come in and hit the zigzag for the 3 count and the victory. Dolph Ziggler retains. Really good match with great work. I actually liked the ending. I mean, it makes sense for, one, it was basically a restart of the match, so McIntyre was no longer banned from ringside. So going in and setting that up right away, like you kind of thought, okay, the whole crowd basically thought, okay, now Rollins is going to come back and win, but then second McIntyre popped up and like, oh, okay, this is going a different way. Again, hopefully, not knowing again what they're going to do for SummerSlam, like maybe they strip, like I said, maybe they strip Lesnar. And we get a tournament that, again, Seth Rollins could maybe win, or Lashley could win, or, I hope not Roman Reigns. Like, that needs to, like I said, that kind of needs to stop. But, again, maybe we can get something, not a multi-man match, just something different than a multi-man match. But, like I said, again, this could lead finally to something different, finally a new champion. And maybe some regularity with belt defenses or title defenses. I think that would really help. So my overall thoughts on the show, well, like I said, there were some pretty good matches. The WWE champion, the Iron Man match, the WWE Championship match. I've locked up. I liked the opening tag match. I liked the cage match, even though the cage match itself wasn't good, but there were some parts of it that, carried that over. The women's championship matches on both ends, I felt could have been better. Lashley Reigns could have been better. There weren't really any bad matches. There were just really short matches or an overly long match and one overly long match. So I really can't say they were bad, but they did hold the show back. So I think things averaged out, so that means I'm going to give Extreme Rules 2018 a C. Okay, so obviously the next video is going to be the Mamma Mia Here We Go Again review. After that, it's going to be the Warlock Masterworks review. I'm still in the initial stages for scripting that. So see you all next time.
Hey guys, tired of me always talking about WWE and NXT? Want to see me cover something like, say, Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan, anything else? Check out my Patreon at Sleepy Time Cat Productions and see how you can help me expand my wrestling coverage.